What if women pulled all the devotion they put into their career, their children, their homes, parents, partners, into themselves? Like, what if they
Yeah.
did that? Then that would be so life-changing. And so many women would be on a higher trajectory and path to embrace the self-esteem concept that you talk about.
Well, I think we'd be healthier physically, we'd be healthier mentally, we would be happier all around.
Mhm.
And healthy and happy just makes us want to do all of the best and greatest things, not only for ourselves, but for others. So it's kind of that concept of put the oxygen mask on first and then take care of those around you.
Welcome to another episode of the Self Care Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Gregory, Self Care Alchemist, helping women transform burnout into better boundaries, more balance, and bliss. And the question of the day is, what is the pipeline between self-esteem to self-care and self-devotion? I'm answering that question today with author, actress, and speaker, Dame Clarissa Burt. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, it's so good to see you all. I'm really thrilled about what you're doing, the work that you're doing for women. We really need to remind ourselves frequently and give ourselves permission to do all the things you mentioned, the self-care, self-love, self-esteem, self-improvement,
Mm.
and not have to feel badly about potentially taking some time away from someone else when we're doing that.
Absolutely. And ironically, I just posted on Substack today that what if women pulled all the devotion they put into their career, their children, their homes, parents, partners, into themselves? Like, what if they
Yeah.
did that? Then that would be so life-changing. And so many women would be on a higher trajectory and path to embrace the self-esteem concept that you talk about.
Well, I think we'd be healthier physically, we'd be healthier mentally, we would be happier all around.
Mhm.
And healthy and happy just makes us want to do all of the best and greatest things, not only for ourselves, but for others. So it's kind of that concept of put the oxygen mask on first and then take care of those around you. It's kind of the thought. And I think we really forget that always falls through the cracks for us. And it can't. So it feels like, God, I really don't have any time for self-care. Hold up. Did you have time to get the dog to the vet, get the kids to the game, get your husband, entertain for your husbands and boss and wife on Friday night? Did you,
Right.
were you able to pull the other, do the wash, fold it, put it away? All the things that you do, there's got to be time. You must insist that there be time because it's a non-negotiable
Absolutely.
that you get your self-care time in. And if you have to put it into a calendar, you have to put it into a calendar. If it comes to that, great, I'm happy, but do it.
Mhm.
And, I mean, I think that, babysitters can't afford a babysitter. Great. Find another mom. Change out days. I'll take your kids on Friday. You take my kids on Saturday. So every weekend,
Mhm.
we get that time to ourselves. Something along those lines. Look, I'm not a parent. I've never had children and I can't preach from a pulpit. But what I can do is, because I know it's the hardest, I'm pretty sure it's the hardest job in the world. And I just think that, most moms probably already know the things I'm saying already, but, when you come across someone who says, I just can't, or, I feel bad, or I can't leave my kids, or
Mhm.
my husband doesn't like, when okay, whatever, everybody's got an opinion, but, here's the real thing is, are you happy? Are
Mhm.
you healthy? And are you taking care of yourself?
That part. Before we go into that deeper, because I know this is such an amazing conversation, tell us more about who you are, what you've been doing in the world, how you're making an impact, and just so people can know who they're actually listening to in this conversation.
Yeah. Okay, my name is Clarissa Burt, also known as Little Chrissy Burt from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Grew up in a row home, basically. So, nothing, just kind of a regular old gal. I grew up with a lot of dreams and ambition, and in the kindergarten, I was Mary Poppins in the kindergarten play. So, I was the kid that was sitting behind Mrs. Bailey on the piano on my sit-upon, singing all the songs. I knew all the words. I was the loudest voice. And, a lot of kids when they're 5 years old, they're kind of shy and a little more quiet. And well, not me. I knew if it was supercalifragilistic or Puff the Magic Dragon, I knew all the damn songs. And so, and we're going back a ways now. I think we're talking about 1964, right? And so, yeah, it's a while ago. And so it was kind of written in the stars, I think, that in some way, shape, or form, I was going to be living and working on a stage and with a microphone in hand. And that's kind of the way it went for the most part. And so fast forward to, I'm living in Jersey. I graduated high school. Can't wait to get into the bright lights in big city, move into the city in New York in 79, stay there for a couple of years. And then off to Europe, I went to model because I was taken by Wilhelmina modeling agencies. So I went and did all the fabulous things that modeling allows and provides, and had a great time doing all of that. Sorry, I get notifications. And so I did all of that. And then, I was now in Paris, and then I moved on to living in Italy. So all told, I was about 28 years in Europe. And I stayed in Italy, and I started to, again, I had my modeling career, then I had my acting career. I was the Mean Queen in the Never-Ending Story Part 2 back in 1990 when that came out. And then but I really, I had probably did about 18 different movies, but I really loved live television and a live television audience. And so that's where I gravitated. And the idea that I could also sing, although not formally trained, just kind of one of those things that I threw out there. I said, they asked me, do you know how to sing? I went, well, let's give it a try. So that was lots of fun. So it was a real time of discovery for me as well, as a person and as an artist, and as someone who was who was conditioned into very little self-esteem. And I had to fight my way out of that. And so that's kind of it. It kind of went forward from there with, again, movies and television and producing my own television shows in Italy and just having a ball, just having the time of my life. I came back to the States 25 years ago. 24 years ago, I came back to the States. I'm back and forth to Europe frequently, but I live here now. And I opened up my own, multimedia platform. So that's video, podcast, digital magazine. And then life happens, doesn't it? So mom was in a very bad car accident 3 years ago. And, I'm basically the only person that could take care of her. So I shut everything down in order to do that. And in the meantime, the book came out. Right around that time, the book came out, the Self-Esteem Regime. And here's a really cool thing about that, Samantha, and that is, it was my first book. I was asked by a gentleman that I collaborated with on the book, and it's in Barnes & Noble. And it's been in Barnes & Noble for the last 5 years. And you talk about crowning, you talk about pinch me moments. Like, I walk into Barnes & Noble after 5 years, and I go over to the personal development section, and boom, there's the book. And it's Brene Brown, Clarissa Burt, Dr. Deepak Chopra, and Dr. Joe Dispenza, all on the same shelf. And I just kind of get down on my knees and say, universe, I don't know what it is that I've done, but thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
That is amazing. I love that. And I'm glad that you had the experience to be able to share with us, your career from childhood to now, because I think it lets people know that, and even the little thing you dropped, it was like, I wasn't born into having good, high self-esteem. And so because that's lets me know that that's not something that's an innate thing. It's something that you definitely learn. Learn self-esteem, and if you're blessed with a family that can teach you that, great. But if you're not, well, then it's your responsibility.
It is your responsibility. And that's a great point, because you came to a great point. Responsibility, I call it reparenting. You've probably heard that before. And so that you get to the point where you go, I'm a big girl now, putting on my big girl britches, nobody's fault. I get it. I was put here for a reason. I was put into these conditions for a reason. It's the warrior in me. It's the fighter in me. It's the lover in me. It's the caretaker in me, because I want to be a better person tomorrow than I am today, just in general. And so therein lies the beauty of the continual work one must do, I feel, in personal development.
Absolutely.
And self-esteem and self-improvement, and always having a book on the nightstand. Read a chapter a day. Doesn't matter who the author is, someone that resonates with you. We've just come up on 11/11, by the way. Give me 3 more seconds, it'll be 10 11/11/11. Okay. It was 11 hours, 11 minutes, and 11 seconds. And so the idea of, I just want to do the right thing. Look, it's such a crappy world out there. It's not easy to navigate. So if you're out there in a bad mood and And, life's not going your way. Why does bad stuff always happen to me? Well, that's what you're going to get. You called it in. So
Mhm.
stop. There's a lot of really cool things. Really, two quick things. When I started to write the book, of course, I was doing a lot of research, and I came across two really great resources, Samantha. One is called Aspergirls.
Interesting.
Aspergirls, written by Rudy Simone. I had found her on just, doing my things, researching on YouTube. And boy, I'm telling you, I picked up her book, and all of a sudden there's this checklist. And I went down the checklist and I went, damn. So kind of like, check, check, that's me. Then there was something else I picked up, and it was Elaine Aron. She's a PhD, and the book is called, and I always trip up on this, Extra Sensitive People, or Extra Sensitive Persons, Extra Sensitive People. And it's the triggers that you have because of the way your brain is wired. Well, you put those two together, and boy, I'm telling you, these two women were speaking, they were talking my language. And all of a sudden, where people used to say, you're so difficult, and all of it, you're so hard to be around, and you're so, oh, come on, it was the way I was wired. And it was every time somebody said something, it was like a nail, the hammer on the top of the nail. And it was really debilitating. It was mentally debilitating. And I thought, what is wrong with me? What could possibly be wrong with me? And boy, I'm telling you, and this is why I found out, first of all, I was able to give myself grace, and permission, and potentially even forgiveness, because I forgive myself for believing what they were telling me. But my point is, the more work you do in the personal development section of Barnes and Noble, and the more you read, the more you do, the more you learn. Boy, I'm telling you, it's a glorious journey. It's a fabulously fun and enlightening, enriching journey.
That is so key. I think the key thing is you were on a journey of self-discovery, especially Asperger's and the extra sensitive person. And I think that is where the missing piece that people, even if they go on the personal development journey,
Yeah.
and I believe that's a beautiful idea myself. I've personal development queen here.
Right.
Books.
That's
But
great. Yeah.
I think the who am I question, who am I really? Not the projected that thing people have put on us, not the labels, not that you're difficult, you're too sensitive, you're too,
Yeah, all the
not,
things.
not
Yes.
those things. It's like, who
Right.
am I at my core? Who did I come on this planet to be? And I think answering that question is so key to making the personal development journey much richer.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that you in your research found these resources and it helped you identify, well, who am I?
And nothing happens per chance.
Right.
And, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, i.e. those two books came into my path.
Yes.
All the things that we know to be true, and that you go, God, that's why, and it was so freeing. When I read these things, it was like, golly, that's why. And like, you can't cook in my house. You cannot cook in my house because the smells absolutely decimate me. Like, and it proves itself over and over again. And here's a staggering number. It's like 30% of the world's population, I'm not going to say suffers, experiences this dis-ease, right? And so it's not a small number, right? So sometimes, and this is where you say, well, give somebody grace, because you don't know what they're dealing with. You don't know what, the shoes they're walking in. And so, we all need to lighten up a little bit and be kinder.
Yes, absolutely. So you wrote the book,
Yep.
the Self-Esteem Regime.
Yes.
What motivated you to write that book? And is it in part or wholly based on your journey of acquiring self-esteem?
So I wrote the book because, going back to 5-year-old Chrissy Burt in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, my mother, a beautiful woman, just a lovely, lovely woman. She got married very early out of Catholic high school. So imagine 12 years of the nuns, 12 years of the priests. My parents got together, had to get married right out of high school. Not the best case scenario. And so, whereas my mother also had dreams and aspirations, they were cut short very quickly because I was on the way. And so, just watching my mom as a child berate herself,
Mm-hmm.
not see in herself, Mom, you're so pretty. Oh, it would be like,
Yeah.
Mom, you're so smart, Mom. Oh no, Chrissy, I'm not smart. Believe me when I
Mm-hmm.
tell you, I'm not smart.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother was on the dean's list. Now, she graduated with 800 girls. She was a salutarian, which means second in line.
Right.
She was brilliant, is still brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to hear, after all the accolades, which kind of I learned about in passing, it really wasn't one of those things that was forefront, learned about my mom, she's still telling me that she's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And Mom, you're so no, don't take a picture of me. I come out horrible in pictures. And it was so funny because my whole world was pictures,
Right.
his pictures. Like I modeled for, a really long time. So that was one of the reasons I couldn't understand why my perception of my mother was just magnitudinous, whereas my mother's perception of herself was horrible. Fast forward to my grandmother. Wants to lose weight, didn't have to lose an ounce, takes 2 diet pills, chokes on them, perforates her esophagus, winds up 6 weeks in the hospital. And you're kind of thinking to yourself, well, what the heck, Graham? You look great to me. You were always nice and slim. You always dressed beautifully. You're a beautiful woman. Like, what's the deal? So I was not surrounded, but the 2 women that I looked up the most to were really not perceiving themselves in the greatest light. Fast forward to the girls I'm modeling with. Now, these are the 1% of the most beautiful girls in the world. These are all cover girls, runway girls, beauty campaign women. We're all in the 1%.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these girls suffered from the same toxic relationships, bulimia, anorexia, drug use, toxic relationships. Now, look, not all of them, some of them. And then you would think to yourself, well, where's the correlation between these girls, these 1%ers, and my mom and grandmom in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? Like, where's the, and there it was. It was the lack of happy, healthy self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes sense. And people, what you see on the outside is not necessarily what's being the message that they're getting on the inside. So they can get all the validation externally, but if you never learn to validate yourself, then you're always in this space of not good enough, not
Right.
the best, not even though you may be making the money, you're walking runways, you're in print, you're doing all the wonderful, beautiful things, but if that self-esteem is not there, you're so
The other thing I was told, Samantha, is never look in the mirror. You're not allowed to look in the mirror when you were little. We were not allowed to look in the mirror because my mother would walk by and say, what are you waiting for? The monkey to jump out?
oh,
And now, looking in the mirror is part of self-discovery, right? It's one of the things that we do every day. But as a child, that was not something that I was allowed. And because she was afraid I was going to become conceited. And so it's really funny that not only was a mirror a huge part of my life, because makeup, there's not a day, at least in my professional work, that I'm not made up and I don't need a mirror to help with that. But I've also talked about mirror therapy in the book.
mm-hmm.
And I learned about mirror therapy through Louise Hay's works. And then, oh, come on, I do this frequently, forgive me. Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield has it in his book as well. And so it's just kind of one of those rah-rah sessions where you take yourself in front of a mirror and you tell yourself all the most beautiful and lovely things. And a lot of people have a really hard time doing that. It's a very emotional exercise. It can bring up a lot of stuff. Most people can't. I had an intern and I said, let's, if you want to intern this, go do this exercise and videotape it and tell me what you did. She got all dressed up, got in front of the mirror. She couldn't say a word. Like the words wouldn't come out. She said, Clarissa, it was the most difficult thing I think I've ever had to do. I got in front of the mirror and I wanted to tell myself nice things about myself, but nothing came up.
Yeah.
And so, so the idea that if you can start with, 1 minute, that would be great. If you can get to 5 minutes a day, that's awesome. And then come back to me after 21 days and tell me how your life is changing, because it will. It most definitely will. It's called self-esteem. It's not what everybody else thinks about me, esteem, and it's self-esteem and not shelf-esteem, meaning get the damn book off the shelf and read it, do the work, right? So yeah, I love that. I don't do it every day, but I do it frequently enough where I'll say, hey, Clarissa, how you doing today? Not looking too bad. Yeah, I like that new haircut. That's a cute top. And so off you go to an interview, and I know you're going to ace it because you're prepared and good on you. And what, I really do like you. I think you're a lovely person. And I'm going to go one step further, Clarissa, and tell you, I really love you. And I
Mhm.
love the way you are with people. And I love, how you make them feel really good about themselves. And I love the work that you did on the book and how it's helped changing people's lives. But I also want to let you know that I forgive you for that time that you should have gotten out of the relationship before, that you let that person treat you so poorly, that you didn't draw stronger boundaries that time, or,
Mhm.
so you have that conversation with yourself. And it's kind of really cool because there are, two ways to look at, when you approach a mirror. One is preening and one is screening.
Mhm.
One is looking into the mirror and one is looking at the mirror. If I'm looking at the mirror, I'm putting on my makeup. If I'm looking at the mirror, in the mirror, then I'm looking into my
Your
soul.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where the good healthy self-talks, comes in. That's that is self-care. Yes, you can do the
At
makeup.
the highest level.
At the highest level, you can look in the mirror for,
Yeah.
like you said, the preening. That's a form of self-care, but that's not the soul care that you need in order to really shine your light in the world. So I've done mirror work before. Yes, it was hard to start. It was very hard, but
Yeah.
when I really got into it, it was life-changing. It was life-changing because I could
Yeah.
now see myself and not see myself, but like see my soul and
Yes,
light.
ma'am.
Yes,
Mhm.
I
You
love.
got that right.
Hey, Samantha, quick note about something I've been working on. You know how much I talk about radical self care and protecting your energy? Well, I realized chaos is one of the biggest energy drains for the women I serve. So I created Bliss Tech Solutions, my tech therapist practice for wellness coaches, consultants, and female founders who are done with tech overwhelm. If you need systems that actually work, AI powered content creation, or just someone who understands both tech and boundaries, I'm here for you. Visit blisstechsolutions.com or DM me. Let's reclaim your time and your peace. So, can you explain? Because I know we talked a little bit about self care, but can you explain like the connection you found between a healthy self esteem and how you care for yourself on the various levels?
Boundaries are the number one. Boundaries are the number one things because again, you are constantly teaching people how you want to be treated.
Right.
You're constantly teaching people how you will not be treated, and
Mm-hmm.
you can do that with ease, joy, and glory. You can do that with kindness. It doesn't have to be a brawl. Most people think that that's it's like a moment of contention, and it
Right.
doesn't have to be that way at all. They can be something really kind, and this is where I often ask people to take a really, really good look at what kind of relationships they are in and how toxic they may be. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you say something to someone and you say, "Hey, listen, can I talk to you just for a second?" Usually I don't do this, but I just want to bring it up because what you just said, I kind of it landed wrong, and let me explain why. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, these, I don't know, these jeans make my butt look big, whatever it is. And I just want to let you know that, I've always had a little bit of an issue with my butt being a little big, but I've just lost 20 pounds and I'm feeling really good about myself. So if somebody comes back to you and says, listen, I am so sorry. It came out wrong. It's not what I meant to say. I'm horribly sorry. I will never happen again. Will you forgive me? Then you're in a pretty good relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a relationship that's worth salvaging, and it's okay. It's all good. People are going to make mistakes, but if somebody comes back and says, "Oh, come on, get over yourself," whatever, like it's not that big of a deal. I didn't mean it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
then you're probably looking at someone that you might want to distance a little bit more.
Absolutely.
That might be a little bit more of a toxic relationship. Remember that the relationships we strive to be in, that we want to be in, that we need to be in, are the ones that are the people. Not only are they're usually they're ride or dies. You can call them at the 3 o'clock in the morning, are your friendships. But when you're talking about family or you're talking about work case scenarios, are the people that really want to see you live your greatest good,
Mm-hmm.
your finest moments, your greatest successes. Those are the people that we really want in our lives, and people that are going to cheer for us, like our own little mini cheerleading squad. And I am the same way. Like I love cheering people on.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of never wanting to compare yourself to anyone else. It's like self-esteem 101, right? But
Mm-hmm.
why is that? Because We haven't walked a mile in their shoes. We don't want to keep up with. Why don't we want to keep up with the Joneses? People say, "Oh, the grass is always greener on the other side." I offer, is the grass really greener on the other side, or is the grass always greener where you water it?
Mhm. Mhm.
Is the grass always greener on the other side, or is it astroturf?
Yes.
Is it fake? Is it plastic? Is it
Mhm.
not real? And is it perception? Is it your perception of perfection? Be real, real careful with the internet. Be real careful about what, especially now with the event of AI. We never know
Mhm.
what we're really looking at now. But if somebody is doing better, as you perceive, better than you, or has reached heights and peaks that you haven't yet experienced, be happy for them. This
Mhm.
is emotional intelligence. These are the steps that you take when you're doing the work and reading the books, that you understand that how empowering it is to feel genuinely happy for someone else's success. Okay, so when you start opening up that kind of broadened scope of energy exchange,
Mhm.
you know, you're calling in some amazing things. Dr. Stephen Hawking's come out with something called the energetic scale, something along those lines. Yeah, I don't know if you know about the energetic scale, but if you don't, you do know. Of course you do. I knew you would. But if you at the very bottom are the lowest, are the lowest energies, and at the very, very top is utopia or whatever, illumination.
Mhm.
And everywhere in between, right, there are different energetic values. I really suggest that everybody goes, takes a look, Google it, download one, print it out, and put it next to your workstation and see where you
Mhm.
are on any given day.
Mhm.
Because it's one of those kind of things that you take a look and go, you know what? Maybe I am living in a little greed. Maybe I am living in a little jealousy. That's not where I want to be. That's not good. That's not good. What can I do to bump myself up a couple of
Mhm.
notches?
Mhm.
And that's sometimes it's that simple to upgrade.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Absolutely. That's so intentional, taking an active role and part in how we want our lives to look, how we want it to feel, how we want it to step into this higher level of happiness, healed life. And so you mentioned boundaries,
Mhm.
and you gave the scenario, someone who is accepting of your boundaries and then someone who is not. And I think what I'm finding is that a lot of people, because this is how I feel, when you're dealing with boundaries, people think of boundaries as violence.
Mhm.
Like it's going to be a violent exchange.
Mhm.
When it doesn't have to be that way, especially when you learn how to, through your self-esteem, communicate as
Yes.
well as just really show up authentically for yourself. And if it does feel violent, it's because the other person has shown
Yeah.
clearly that they have no intention of building a authentic relationship with you. So I really appreciate the boundaries.
Yeah, I think it's because that other person hasn't gotten to the level yet. Remember, even as we grow, there are different growth levels. And some people, this is where a lot of contention happens, a lot of resentment happens, is when someone grows beyond. We
Mm,
know about the tribes that want to hold us back, right? We hear about that frequently. They're not happy for us. They're not happy for our success. Their nose gets out of joint.
mhm,
They get kind of upset. They feel jealous feelings. They feel resentment. And you many times may take it on yourself as, gosh, I've done something wrong.
mhm,
I've upset somebody. That wasn't my intention. What did I do? How did I go? Just let it be. Continue on your path and
mhm,
start to understand that many, many, many times, and it gets kind of, this simple. You're dealing with their inner child. You're dealing with the baby within, and your baby is, already starting to cut their milk teeth where,
mhm,
you know what I'm saying? So like the growth in all of us is different. And we really must honor that. Just honor the fact that not everybody grows at the same rate, that
mhm,
not everybody is nasty, that not everybody is, a bad person. They just aren't on the same level. And a lot of us that are, growing quickly, and I'd like to put myself in that path because I know I've done the work and I can
mhm,
feel it inside of me that I have. Look, I'm human and things trigger me and I fall back down the slide sometimes. But I always make sure that equilibrate, what's the word?
recalibrate.
Recalibrate. Thank you. And make sure, yeah, and make sure that I slipped. Didn't need to do that. Okay, where was I? Let's get back there. Let's get back there. Let's not dwell here.
Mhm.
And then continue on from there. Yeah, it's all about, the things that you learn when you start down, again, that path of personal development. It's a glorious thing.
So what are the key steps someone can take to, as they're on this journey of building their self-esteem, to continue to allow it
Right.
to expand through daily practices? I know you mentioned boundaries and you mentioned a couple of other things, but like
Value system. Your
values.
value system. So if I were to ask a lot of people, and this may happen to you, if you ever ask the question, What are your values?"
Mhm.
A lot of people don't know how to answer you. They don't know what values really are. They just don't know what that is, and that's okay. As I said, we're getting there. Everybody's going to get there. But the value system, what are your values? And your value system is your blueprint. That is your personal blueprint. It is who you are on any given day, in any circumstance ever. It's who you are in a love relationship and with your family, with your co-workers, with the woman you're passing with your cart and the shopping, on the food shopping store, all the things. You are that person constantly. You never digress. You are always at that place. And so your values, for example, mine is, I like to say, I take the high road:
Mhm.
honesty, integrity, gratitude, and honor. Those are the four things that I can guarantee you will get from me. I am
Mhm.
going to be radically honest. I will live in full on integrity. I am always grateful every day for everything I have. One of the luckiest people I know. And honor.
Yeah.
And honoring the people. Honor is not always a military term. It's one of those kind of things we say, I want to honor my parents, even though they weren't perfect, even though, my parents had those tools in the shed on that given day because that's what they knew and that's what they were taught. And my parents came up with, 12 years with the Catholic nuns and priests. And,
Mhm.
so when I was taught a whole bunch of things. And I had to figure out where I wanted, what was going to work for me and all of that. And
Mhm.
that's the thing we must understand, is that a lot of things that we are taught early on, we thank them for. It's
Yeah.
not that there's no right or wrong about it. It's just not fit into what serves us best on our path.
Mhm. Mhm.
That simple,
Yes.
so I hope I answered that question. But I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
I think the value system is probably one of the greatest things that we forget about, and then our birthright.
Mhm.
We hear a lot about birthright. What is birthright and how is birthright? And well, first of all, it's the right to be loved
Mhm.
and love. It's the right to be able to say yes and no. It's a whole bunch of different things. It's a whole long list. But most people just hear it as a word, like birthright. So if I say to you, Samantha, what's your birthright? I know that there are like 10 different things on the birthright list that we just don't think about every day,
Mhm.
right? So I've incorporated that also into the work because it's really our birthright, isn't it?
It is.
It doesn't matter. Anything more doesn't matter. It's all about the right that we have because we were born, the
Mm.
rights that we have because we were born. So I think that that's another really important thing to bring into it. And noticing, when we hear about going the extra mile, you mile is the longest, it's the coldest, it's the darkest, and it's the scariest. And I'm
Oh, yeah.
telling you, when you turn around, come on, everybody, come on, we're going the extra mile. It's like, where the hell did everybody go?
Right.
Because nobody's going to be there. You people that nobody's going to walk that path with you. That
Mhm.
is your path and your path alone. And it's going to be wet. And it's going to be dreary. And you're not going to have an umbrella. And you forgot. I call them galoshes or your boots. You forgot them. And it's blustery and windy. And you think you see the big bad wolf behind the tree. And it might be there behind the tree, but you trudge on anyway. And the light that you see at the end of that tunnel, it's bigger, brighter, bolder, and more beautiful with every step you take. And when you finally get to embrace that light, it's an extraordinary thing.
It is. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And speaking of the light, oftentimes self-condemnation and blame you gets in the way. And you mentioned giving yourself grace and you mentioned forgiveness a couple of times. So talk a little bit more about that.
Well, giving yourself grace, forgiveness, I think, is one of the first things we have to do is forgive ourselves, because we have to forgive ourselves because we only knew what we knew. We only were taught what we were taught. We didn't even know that we had to learn something because we had already learned one thing, but we had to learn how to unlearn it,
Mhm.
which is rather really extraordinary. You're like, wait a minute, you just told me that I'm not supposed to call boys. I'm not supposed to call boys, and you're not supposed to look at boys. This is what I was taught when I was young. Like, don't look at
Mhm.
boys, don't call them. They're supposed to come to you and they have to show up at the front door. Yeah, there's a whole list, of things, obviously, as I'm not saying there was bad parenting. I'm just saying it was interesting, the concept. And so there's a whole idea of forgiving yourself because of the things you may have been taught that you have let a little bit go of that embrace, it's not necessarily working for you. And so that's really important. When you start to do that, you can start to forgive those that taught you those things and think about why they taught you those things and is their inner child dealing with all the time. And, and I'm not saying forgive everybody, everything all the time. Sometimes forgiveness means I can forgive you and you aren't going to be in my life anymore. And I've done that on quite a few occasions because it wasn't healthy for me. Their level of growth was not yet to a point that it was opposite poles, right? And so, you have to be moving on while everyone else takes their time to do the growth that they need to do.
Would you say that this is a part of the steps it takes to develop better self-esteem, or is it done separately, in parallel? What would you say about
When you say it, what do you mean by it?
forgiveness?
Oh yeah. I mean, forgiveness is just one of those kind of things that, it'll never do you wrong. I don't care what the case scenario is. I don't care what they've done. Now look, I get that there are some scenarios where it's almost impossible. I get that there are going to be some things in life that are going to be really, 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 really hard to forgive. But I think that you can learn to forgive yourself because you haven't yet gotten to the place where you can forgive until you continue on with your growth. You may get there and you may not. But I do think that forgiveness is one of the things that never does wrong. I also often talk about apology. We think that a lot of people think that apology is degrading and it's something that, it's a prideful thing, right? And I think it's one of the most powerful things you'll ever do.
Right.
Even if you really don't feel as though you need to be asking for an apology, and the other person doesn't either, nobody's going to know how you're going to be able to break through the stalemate unless somebody picks up a phone, sends an email or a carrier pigeon, because, there's a stalemate. Something went wrong and you may be able to fix it. You may not, but you will always know that at least you tried, right? Some people don't even try. So I often will say, and then if it doesn't work, again, we're at different levels of growth. We're all in this, is all kind of parallel, but it's parallel like this.
Yeah.
It can be parallel like this. Someone's just not there yet, and other people are a little bit more advanced in their learning, in their learnings. Yeah.
Awesome. What impact have you seen in the lives of some of the people who've read your book and how they have changed from low self-esteem to a higher self-esteem?
Yeah. I spoke to somebody recently. It was actually, she said, Clarissa, I picked up that book. She says, I swear to you, it came exact because she was going through a divorce. It came through because he was cheating. So obviously, when you're cheated on like that, it's a terrible, terrible trauma.
Yeah.
And so betrayal is a terrible trauma. And so at least I live it really poorly. Anyway, I do not live that well. And so she said, I cannot tell you how much I cried, how much it helped, how much I grew, how much I understood more about me. And, so it was like kind of those kind of moments you just kind of go, oh, and sometimes you hear this, you hear people say, even if it touches one person, I hope it touches half the world, quite frankly, but it's thrilling as an author to be able to hear that it really makes a difference in someone's life.
Awesome. I'm sure there's so many more other stories as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. People that'll say, "Oh, it's just so great. Now there's so many things I didn't know." And I'll say, "Did you do the mirror therapy?" Well, I didn't get there yet, but get back and do the mirror therapy.
Yes, yes, yes. So tell us where we can find the book as well as where we can find you online in the work that you do.
Of course. Well, obviously, it's at Barnes and Noble stores nationwide. It is also on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. In I think pretty much every country. It was translated into Italian, so it's over there too. And Clarissa, at Clarissa, I'm just clarissaburt.com or Clarissa Burt on all the socials.
Very good. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. I appreciate you giving of yourself and your time to share about your book, self-esteem, and just all the intricacies of the path that it takes to get there through self-development.
Yeah, it's a glorious journey.
Mm.
And I really do invite everyone to partake. Jump on the train. Just do the work.
Yes, absolutely. And all your information will be in the description. So definitely connect with Clarissa, get her book. I've been reading it. And make sure that you share this episode with someone else. Like us, subscribe, follow us on all social media. And we hope that you have the day that you want because you deserve it. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Self Care Oasis podcast, and we'll see you next time. Take care. And that's our conversation for today. Thank you for being here, for showing up for yourself, and for choosing self-devotion over self-sacrifice. Now I want to leave you with something special. This month's free gift is my 35 micro self-care practices for busy women guide. Inside, you'll find simple, sustainable practices you can use today, from quick stretches and breathing exercises to energy resets and mindful moments. No guilt, no overwhelm, just real self-care that works. Download it free at selfcarealchemist.com/selfcareguide. I'll also drop the link in the show notes. Pick one practice and try it today, just one. That's how transformation begins. Thank you for listening to Self Care Oasis. I'm Samantha Gregory, and I'll see you next time. Until then, choose your bliss.